I'm curious. Do you consider yourself to be spiritual? Now, before you answer that, I'd like to talk with you for a bit. The word spiritual holds different meanings for different people. Some believe that being spiritual involves having an extensive meditation practice. They believe that being spiritual involves living a certain lifestyle, eating certain foods, practicing certain rituals. The list goes on. Now, what if I were to tell you that I believe we are all spiritual, regardless of our belief system? In other words, you could be religious and be spiritual. You could be void of any religious practices and be spiritual. For me, being spiritual means having an intimate relationship with all of life. It's not a private club for the highly evolved. There's no guidebook or set of rules to being spiritual. In my opinion, it's the most inclusive practice there is. See, spirituality is what unites all of us. It's that common thread that connects us with one another and everything around us. In other words, all living things are spiritual, whether it's humans, animals, or nature. As a matter of fact, the connection we have with animals and nature is purely spiritual, as there's no need for words. It transcends the human vocabulary. Like, for example, if you have a pet, look deeply into their eyes and don't say a word. You will experience a spiritual connection that is purely based on energy. See, I find that practicing spirituality is very liberating because it's about believing that anything is possible. It's being open-minded, and it's going with the flow of all the ups and downs of life. So, what exactly does being spiritual look like? Well, the following are just some examples that I believe a spiritual practice looks like. Expressing yourself through music is a spiritual practice. Expressing yourself through dance is a spiritual practice. Expressing yourself through art is a spiritual practice. Expressing yourself through writing and poetry is a spiritual practice. Spending quality time with your pet is a spiritual practice. Spending quality time with your loved ones is a spiritual practice. Being in nature is a spiritual practice. Traveling and seeking new experiences is a spiritual practice. Enjoying good food is a spiritual practice. Enjoying good company is a spiritual practice. Setting aside time for self-care is a spiritual practice. Setting aside time to reflect is a spiritual practice. Allowing yourself to feel emotions is a spiritual practice. I personally believe that spirituality is all-encompassing. In other words, being human is a spiritual practice. So let me ask that question again. Do you believe you're spiritual? I'd like to share a couple of quotes with you. The first one is by Vine Deloria Jr. Religion is for people who are afraid of going to hell. Spirituality is for those who've already been there. True. So true. The next quote is by Michael Yaconelli. Spirituality is not about being fixed. It is about God being present in the mess of our unfixedness. Again, it resonates. Well, this is all I have for today. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me. And if you have any questions, or there's a unique way that you practice your spirituality, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to message me to my personal email. I've listed it in the description below. Until next time, be safe and make sure to keep paying attention to your karma. It's our greatest teacher.